Okay, well, welcome back to another video. Um, Between the last video and this one, there was one little step I had done to add, which was to add these three pieces onto the stem in here. They're going to be a support structure for all the stuff that's going to go there at the bow. So they had to put those in at this time. I didn't think there was any point in filming it. It was, pretty straightforward. It was cutting out. We just dyed them separately and inserted them in there. So we're going to start now, I think, in earnest, really starting to put all of the detail and whatnot onto the deck. And of course, I laid a bunch of stuff out that all just fell as I turned the ship. But the first step that we're doing here is we're going to start dressing up these spiral staircases in there. There's some trim pieces that have to go on for each one of these. There's four pieces total that we'll put in there. And I've already been kind of test fitting some of these things, and they're actually a little more work than you would think just sticking um, four pieces on. There's a little pillar that kind of is going to go on the inside there, around the inside of the spiral. You can see it here. These all were cut out of a 3 millimeter dowel, and then they all needed to be dyed. There's a little pillar. Now this is an odd one. The instructions say to use 2x2 walnut, but the pictures clearly show 2x3. You can definitely tell that it's wider than it is thick. So I'm going to go with the 2x3. Um, and that in conjunction with one of these little uh, pillars here are going to help form a like a stair rail that's going to go down. And there's the stair rail. They're a laser cut part. Then I pulled out. I kind of sanded as best I could to get the scorching off of. Now this is the first step where we're using these little pillars. They have all been painted gold. But to say there is a lot of those in this kit would be an understatement. Um, Here they all are, stuck to some blue painter's tape, and then I spray painted them gold. Um, they're all supposed to be gold. I thought about whether or not I wanted to kind of put some weathering and some detailing on them. Well, not so much weathering, but to put what would be called a wash into the recesses to kind of accentuate them a little bit. But with all of those, that's going to be a lot of extra work, and I don't think you're really going to notice it. But for the next few steps, probably the next couple videos, actually, we're going to be installing all of these things around the deck. I'm probably going to get sick of working with these little pillars. Um, so anyway, let's go. Let me get set up. I'm going to try a slightly different camera position so that maybe you can see what I'm doing a little bit better here. And we'll do one of these stairs together, and then I'll probably shut the camera off so I can get the rest of them done. Because like I said, I think just test fitting them and sanding all of these parts to be the right size, it's actually a lot more work than you would think for installing six pieces or four pieces, but there's six staircases. Okay, so we're getting ready to start here. The first thing I'm going to do is the pillar that's going to come on the inside of the spiral. So I'm just going to put some glue here, glue up the top, and then I'll add some CA directly to the bottom of this piece, and then we'll put it in place. All right, there we go. Next piece to go in is that little tiny pillar. And I have to make sure that it's oriented correctly because I had to sand the top at a slight angle here to accommodate the banister that's going to go down on these stairs. So it's got to line up kind of perfectly here with the corner of the bottom stair. So you kind of put it like at a 45-degree angle sticking out of the corner there. There we go. This next piece, it is another support for the staircase banister, and it's got to glue in right next to the third stair. The third stair from the bottom, I should say. And unfortunately, it's really hard to get in there and get it right up. There we go. I think I got it. And then the banister has a straight sides that's supposed to go against the bulwark. And then it's going to flow down across the top of both of those two pieces, assuming I cut them both to the correct length. Here's where it fits, but that doesn't, keeps it below that. So me go and take another look at the pictures and stuff and find out where that thing is supposed to actually hit. It doesn't seem to be quite where I expected it to be because it's, to make everything line up, it's, you can see it's not, it's below the top stair, which I don't think it's supposed to be, and it's sticking out pretty far. But the back angle is wrong, so I might need to adjust it for it to, start higher up. Let me go take a look at that, and then we'll come back. All right, so it took a little bit of doing and leafing through the instructions, actually, to for later on in the instructions to find pictures that just kind of showed these steps, because the one I was putting it on wasn't the exact set that they were showing in there. And I was able to find out, that the banister basically goes onto the bulwark pretty high up. It goes down at a fairly steep angle. And it looks like, once again, there's another error in the dimensions. The pillar in the middle that I put in there, according to the instructions, it says to cut it to 12 millimeter, and that's where I had it. And it was just entirely too low. If that banister sat on both of those pillars, it was just coming in way too low up at the top and stuff. So I pulled the one that I had glued in out and cut one to 14 millimeters. I just kind of, by holding the banister there, eyeballed it and thought, okay, it's about 2 millimeters difference and stuff. And as soon as I put that 14 millimeter post in there, then everything just kind of fell into place. And again, looking at some instructions later on, I could see that that post was definitely sticking up above that step that it's glued to, a lot higher than what mine was. And so yeah, so I think it's just got to be a little bit longer. It also, that extra 2 millimeters made putting it in there um, much easier. Gave me just that extra amount, so with my tweezers I could get in there and kind of drop it right into place. So that's basically this next step, is to do that for the 5 remaining staircases. And then we're going to start going back and working on the rails and stuff. Now, this set of rails does have some complications to it, in that we're going to do a run that goes pretty long, and it it can't be done with a uh, straight piece of wood for the plank. So I have to bend it, but bend it not kind of the same way we were doing we did the planks on the hole. It's got to be kind of against the width of it. I'll explain it when we get to that step, but I've already had to start preparing the planks to get them to hold a bend, so that they can be fixed into place. So anyway, let me go back and get the rest of these staircases done, and then we'll come back and we'll worry about doing that railing then. Well, all right, I have all of the staircases all kind of trimmed out with their banisters and everything put on there. Um, didn't dye the banisters when I first put them on there, but I decided they just looked too stark, um, being all white and stuff. But I didn't want them to just be the sepally color and kind of end up having them blend in. So I ended up dyeing them with the walnut dye, and I think it actually came out pretty good. So anyway, those stairs are done. The next step is to start working on the railing and stuff in here. Now I've already taken and drilled holes along this section here. Let me see if I can zoom the camera in on it, so you can see. So there's 13 little pillars that are going to go in here. And they're supposed to be spaced, I think it was 11 millimeters apart, and which doesn't quite fit in there evenly. So got to find the center spot, drill that hole, and then it's just 6 on either side of it. So I made up a bunch of these, which is the pillars with a pin sticking out. They're all going to go into the hole. I mean, with the glue and stuff in there, that should hold it in place, fairly well, and I actually add a lot of strength to this. The other thing, though, that we need to consider is, let me just kind of zoom back out here. So we're going to have one continuous rail run that starts all the way up here and continues all the way back to here. And there's actually a pretty good bend in the ship in there. Now, you start looking at it, it looks straight at first, but it's starting to taper as we get close to the bow, and we're actually past the midpoint here, so it's starting to slowly taper as it goes towards the stern. And so you can't just put a straight piece of wood on there. It's not going to line up at all on top of this. So I needed to go and bend it, and was trying to figure out like the best way to do it. And I realized these do have a fair amount of flex to them. And so I made up this jig. I took just an old piece of wood, and I used a bunch of nails. Well, a bunch. I used 3, 2 in a nice straight line, and then another that I used. I figured out how much of a bow I needed in there, and so I can slide these planks in there at this curve, and then used my old tried and true. I soaked this whole thing down with Windex, and let it dry overnight. So I've done like one plank at a time, because I have to do one for the other side, and like really let it dry, let that Windex come in, and I'm not sure how you can see, but once I pull it out of the jig, it has a bow in it. Like I said, I'm not really sure you can really tell looking at it through the camera or anything, but yeah, it's got enough of a bow that it basically I can put it on there and it's going to follow that all the way down. I just need to cut it to end at the right spot and everything. So that's kind of what I did to prep the rails here and to get them right. I've already sanded all of these things down, make sure they're nice and flush. So all I need to do at this point is go and glue all those little pins in and then mount this rail on top of it, and then of course repeat it for the other side. So let me go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the final result here. Okay, got the rails on both sides. You can see it looking really good with all those pillars and stuff in there. Also went ahead, the very next step was to put the rings that go inside those little U-shaped cutouts. So we've got that in there. Still a long way to go on these rails. What we kind of did here, which is, start with the bottom rail, a bunch of pillars, and then add a top rail. It's gonna get repeated as we go down towards the stern. So there's gonna be levels as we go up there. And the work on that, the way the instructions have you do it, I think it's just to not get super repetitive, as they have you bounce around. So like I said, the next step was to put those rings in. We're going to do some work on the bow. Then we'll come back and we'll do the next step and so on and stuff. So I think there's a lot of little tiny steps that are coming up. And so I think this one and probably the next few videos are going to be a little bit shorter, simply because I'm just going to do like one or two small steps and to kind of just include in them, and that'll be it. If I get to some bigger step or something that's going to take a lot of work that I feel like I can really show the techniques I'm using or something, yeah, then I'll film them. But most of the stuff is pretty straightforward. It's just cut a piece of plank, sand it to shape it or whatever, and stick it on. So, but yeah, I'll come back around and kind of show what it looks like at the completion of each of those steps and stuff. And so this is a good stop place here to stop this video. Again, thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe.